The grandpapa is in the building. After years of active involvement in the early days of hip-hop in the US, he returned to Ghana to start his own fusion brand of music called Hiplife.
I am bilingual. I am from Africa. English is my first language, but I have a good command of, because my father was a strong Pan-African. I wasn't one of them kids that was born up top that didn't have a connection to, their roots. I could speak my own language. So I decided to not rap in English, but rap in my own dialect.
30 years on, the hiplife genre, a blend of Ghana's famous highlife sound with elements of hip-hop, has grown into a massive movement that has produced scores of talents. But with the rapid growth of Afrobeats around the world, what is the fate of hiplife?
Young people do young things. Young people are impressionable. And so whatever new style pops up is where they're going to go to, which might be detrimental to the patriotic side of things when it comes to us, because as it stands right now, we don't seem to have an ID.
The hiplife originator Reggie Rockstone will talk to us about the future of the genre he named and its evolution over the past 3 decades. And wait a minute, did she just say Margaret? Scientists suggest in a new study that African elephants call each other by names, which really sound like rumbles to us. We'll tell you how they figured that out. I'm Nia Kofi Smatabe. This is the A55 podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the A55 podcast. I hope you enjoyed our special episode on democracy in Africa a couple weeks ago. This week, we're back to our regular show. If you are new to the show, welcome to the family. Just remember to subscribe so you can get new episodes of the show downloaded to your device whenever they are available. To kick things off, here's Gertrude Davis Tete with this proverb from Ethiopia.
Do not blame God for creating the tiger. Just thank Him for not giving it wings.
Thanks, Gertrude. Do you ever hear a song that suddenly transports you to a specific moment in time? I do. I know I've talked a lot about my memory lapses on this show, but music has always helped me remember things, and the music from my guest on today's episode is certainly among the repertoire. Reggie Rockstone, as he's known in showbiz circles, took the Ghanaian music scene by storm in the early to mid-90s when he unleashed his unique blend of rap music, which he aptly named Hiplife. Unlike the hip-hop music at the time, Rockstone's music was unique in the sense that it had a local feel to it. Whether he was rapping over hip-hop or funk beats, Rockstone communicated to his audience in one of Ghana's most popular languages, Twi, and at times a mixture of Twi and English. Arguably, his most impressive show of versatility was when he sampled Alhaji K. Frimpong's 1970s classic Chenchembie Dimewu for one of my all-time favorite songs, Keep Your Eyes on the Road. I say it's my all-time favorite because anyone who knows me knows that much as I love music, I'm a lousy rapper, but Rockstone's Keep Your Eyes on the Road was one of the few songs I could rap along to from beginning to end. Don't ask me to do that now. Hiplife gave permission, if you will, to a whole generation of music talent to experiment with not only the hip-hop sound and flow in their local languages, but also ensured that the tradition of highlife music was sustained at the time many feared it was going extinct. Cut to 2024, the hiplife sound has changed. It's not the same sound that defined my high school years, for instance, and borrowed quite extensively from highlife music. But I guess that's to be expected, right? Because art evolves. The thing though is, hiplife is undergoing this evolution at a time when a new set of sounds, Afrobeats, Afropop, Amapiano, are sweeping across Africa and the world. So what is the fate of hiplife music today? Does it stand the chance of surviving another, say, 20 years? Will there be a celebration of hiplife at 50, a milestone its cousin hip-hop celebrated in the US last year? The originator of the hiplife genre, Reggie Rockstone, joins me in a moment with some thoughts. Reggie Rockstone, thank you very much for joining us on the A55 podcast.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. As I do with my guests when they come, usually I like to, snoop around a bit, see something in the past that I personally I didn't know about the person. And with you, one thing I found intriguing was that you were touring sometime in the 80s with, when you were part of the hip hop movement as a dancer and all. Really?
Yeah. I mean, I was a dancer before music.
Okay.
And so, yes, I danced all over the world, even in Ghana. And the transition from dance to music, I guess, was almost mandatory because I dance to the music. So
Yeah.
it's only right that, if you like jollof good enough, you're going to learn to cook it. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And for a long time, I always thought you were born in the US, but I found out you were rather born in the UK.
Yes, I'm an English cat. I am the first Ashanti British New Yorker.
Tell me, how does New York come in the equation? Because you were born in the UK.
I lived in New York many, and my biological is Ashanti, but the woman that raised me, my mother, is African American.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got two families. I got both of them.
Okay. So that's how New York comes into the equation.
Yes, and also my father, he lived in LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So you see, I learned something new that I didn't quite know about you. All right. So now let's come to what we all know you for, Hiplife. Before Hiplife, though, you were part of a group called PLZ, right? Which was more hip hop.
Party à la Maison, yes. That's when I lived in the West, yes.
So when you went back to Ghana in the 90s and you wanted to do music on your own, you could have easily stayed in, that hip hop lane you were in. What made you decide to switch it up and do what you gave birth to named hip hop?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's divine intervention. I was raised Pan-African. Okay. My father was a strong influence. I was raised being about Africa. So regardless of the fact that I was born in the West, my father made sure that I always could speak my own language. I could speak the language. And so I figured if I had to address my people, why would I be speaking in a white man lingo? I'm an English New Yorker. Yeah, I could speak English, but this is not my mother tongue. Even though English is my first language, because, I was born over there. But I have a good command of my own language. And so if I'm Pan-African and I've come home, it's only right that I would be rapping in my own, addressing my people in my own language. And this is what happened.
Okay. And then how did the idea come to, mix it with the high life music instead of just staying, true to what hip hop was doing at the time and just, stay with the hip hop beats, but you mixed.
You got to remember, hip hop is probably the only non-conformist music form style out in the world. You have hip hop jazz, hip hop rock, hip hop. You can do hip hop on everything. You have gospel rap, you got gangster rap, you name it. So that in itself sets the tone. And then, of course, I had to reintroduce the whole concept of, hip hop to my people and let them understand that hip hop actually did come from Africa. It's not foreign. Africans, well, I can speak for myself. A lot of Ghanaians used to tag hip hop as foreign music, and I'm like, no, these are your brothers and sisters, your ancestors who got took from Africa by a big bad boat ride called slavery is the only way that you got separated. And so this is why they look and they move just like you. And so you need to know that the blueprint of this billion industry comes from kings and queens like you. And so that was necessary. Also, in terms of branding, I needed to have something that my people could identify with really fast. So highlife being the most popular style of music in Ghana, I just, in terms of branding, it was a genius plan. Because I guess if I had called it hip hop, it might not have moved as fast as sounding just like highlife, even by a name. Hiplife, highlife.
Yeah.
It's an easy sell. And in a very unique way, I was paying homage to highlife, which is very African, to pay respect to those who have paved the way. So we didn't go too far from the name highlife, which made it very easy to digest. Yes.
Mm. And you gave it a name, which of course is what we know now and what we were talking about, which is Hiplife. How many years ago was this? Remind us.
I came home in about 93, 94. Yes. And it was my father, the legendary Ricky Saint Jose fashion designer. He's the one that suggested that I don't call it hip hop. Yeah, my friend hip hop, yeah. What
Yeah.
and he's the one that said, why don't you take the life from highlife and the hip from hip hop? So in terms of branding, the branding came even before the actual concept of actually using highlife music. Because if you listen to my old stuff, it's more funk records that I sampled and what you call hip hop. But the language would represent the highlife Ghanaian side of things. I don't think I even made an authentic, based on the concept, authentic hip life song till I sampled a Logic from Pong, which is Chen Chen Beauty, which is Keep Your Eyes on the Road.
Yep.
Yeah, and that would be the bench. But otherwise, for the most, it was all hip hop. I mean, I could play my music to somebody in New York and they would immediately identify it as hip hop until you mention the name, hip life to them. So yeah, some of the samples that I use, other African American prolific groups have sampled after me. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it was the beginning, but it inspired a whole generation. Yes.
Yes, which is what I wanted to go to next. It's funny, I was just listening to the Makamaka album before we started this, and one of the intros on it, you said you had a message for the youth, telling them that don't let yourself be pressured by your father, for instance, to become a doctor.
You could be all you want to be. Don't let him fool you. Don't let your father put no pressure on you. Talk about be a doctor, be a lawyer. Be who you want to be. Respect yourself, be true to yourself, and everything is gonna be alright.
So looking back 30 years on and looking at the number of musicians who've come through this brand or this identity called Hiplife, does it make you feel like the message was well received?
I really don't know, because Ghana, at the time, the listenership wasn't very message oriented. They just wanted to listen to the lyrics and dance. Africans celebrate life with body movement to music. So I don't know, but somewhere out there, I'm sure somebody, it must have inspired somebody, because here you are 30 years after quoting this. So I'm sure, it had an effect on somebody else. But yeah, I really meant it as I said it. And because, we seem to have a one-way look. How many doctors can we have, and how many, and we, of course, we got football players, we got athletes, we have great musicians. We excel almost at everything. Still, it seems to be the benchmark for academic success or what. It's just weird, Yeah, they want to be a lawyer, want to be a doctor, so.
Well, it looks like that's what the mark of success is in our societies. That
they base it. You're right. They base it on what the man says. Right down to, if you don't speak good English, then it's crazy, man. These are some of the reasons why I chose to rap in my own language. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, speaking of Ghanaians and our love for debates and, living up to certain standards that are mostly set for us, I remember back when there was a conversation about high life is dying or high life is dead. Then, of course, we had you come along and give it another lease on life. And then when Azonto took off sometime in the mid-2000s, there was conversation about, Hiplife is dead, or is it not? And of course, now we're in the era where Afrobeats is what's trending. For you, as the one who named this movement, Hiplife, what do you say to those who question if Hiplife is still alive or not?
I mean, I think it's very natural. If you check the trajectory of how everything is moving. Things evolve. I wouldn't say it's dead. I mean, as long as Sarkodie and Medical is filling the O2, he's a hip life artist. There's no doubt. He's rapping in tree over the hip hop beats. Sarkodie is still very strong. So, in terms of holding the brand name, is probably the topic to be debated right now. And young people do young things. Young people are impressionable. And so whatever new style pops up is where they're going to go to, which might be detrimental to the patriotic side of things when it comes to us, because as it stands right now, we don't seem to have an ID, which is crazy. I mean, Hiplife was popping way before the new reemergence of Afrobeat became. But they have a brand, they have a name they're moving with.
Yeah.
And you ask Ghanaians what style they on now. They, some say Afro this, some say hip rap. It's crazy. But if we are all united on one front and we have a tag, it kind of moves the movement a little faster. Because this is what happened when Hiplife took off. We had a name and we were moving in the name of the name. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, it's a new day. Nevertheless, when you ask Black Sharif what's his style, I mean, I heard an interview and he said it's hip hop and highlife. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's hip life. You just said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that you brought up the issue of evolution because so I guess what I want to ask is, in today's context, in 2024, if a musician is to say my brand is Hiplife, what would be the things we should look out for, or the identifiers to say that, yeah, actually this guy's doing Hiplife or he's not? Does it have to be in like Chi or any of the local languages? Does it have to be sample high?
For the most, it is interchangeable, because if when I put out Keep Your Eyes on the Road, I'm using an authentic highlife track from the 70s, right? That I sampled, but I was rapping in English. Do I make myself clear? Yeah, and all of that. So it's interchangeable. But when you hear Hiplife, you will know. It usually has, some guitar work, some highlight vibe, or via the language. Yeah, because it seems when they want to straight do hip hop, they usually rap in English. They emulate their brothers from up top. And I've heard some of the most amazing African rappers who have a great command of the English language. I mean, I know rappers who are African who can toe-to-toe match the folks up top. When you listen to Brother Manifest, even Brother EL, and it's great that they're bilingual. Manifest does Triglish. They could flip over here and over there. So, the versatility is beautiful.
Okay. I asked because simply because, there was a period back when some of the younger ones were doing drill rap, but they were still rapping in Chi, for instance. So, that was why I was asking that.
Yeah, but you see, the reason why you can identify drill is because drill has a name tag like Hiplife, right? So the tag is drill.
Yeah.
But so it comes with a certain type of sound. The low frequency.
Yeah.
And so they know what that is. And then they just happen to be doing it in their own language.
Yeah.
So but it's entirely up to whoever owns the product and what they want to call it. I mean, I can't tell somebody what to name their child. You know what I mean? If you have a child and you want to name the child, Babushki Boom Boom, that's entirely up to you. So whatever you say it is, I say okay, then that's what it is, because that's what you said it was.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's true.
I don't know why, Debbie. So whatever you say it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Okay. Waka. That's it. All right. So let's say, looking forward, I'm going to come back to talk more a bit about you, but just before we drop off on Hiplife, say 10 years from now, or even 15, 20 years from now, do you still see Hiplife taking on new forms, new sounds?
It already has. It
Yeah.
already has. That's
But
what
do you see
Black
it changing
Sharif showed us.
further, is what I mean.
Yeah, that's what Black Sharif just showed us. It already has. His sound, his whole approach, everything. You know, that's it right there. As to whether they will bring back the whole movement and reestablish it for patriotic reasons or for reasons that suit Ghana, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah,
Would you love to see that though? That the
of course, I'm a patriot. I am. I mean, why would I be in the wilderness? You know, people asking young folks who come from a very rich background. You know, when Hiplife set off, we were in the forefront in Africa, with the exception of Senegal. We were on the forefront. You know, we inspired a lot of people, and so why would I? Yeah, no, I think it's a great move. If you have a name and an ID, it goes a long way. It institutes national pride, all of the above. You know, but when you don't know where, you seem to be trying to follow whatever's hot, whatever's trending. Then when they don't want you in the door, they will not let you in the door. You know, I keep telling them, I said Nigeria got enough already. You know, there's enough Afrobeat artists over there trying to make it. Yeah. And so, that's why Black Sharif, because he sounded so unique that they couldn't stop him. Nobody could stop him. Yeah.
Okay, so now back to Reggie Rockstone. Another thing I learned about you is that you were a trained actor.
Yes.
Why haven't we seen much of Reggie doing mainstream feature film kind of acting thingy?
Yeah. I mean, I do intend to eventually go, into that story, but I was a lot of the times the scripts and stuff that they gave me were all just real, just real corny.
Okay.
So yeah.
So with the right script, we're going to see.
But I have written my own. That I'm about to work on. So wow. Yeah, and of course, I'm talking to the best in the field. So, I have been blessed to know personally people like Idris Elba. So I reputate for him. I showed him what it is that I want to do, and I when I do, I'll have some of the best guidance. Yeah.
Nice. Is it going to be a biopic or is it just another feature?
No, just nothing to do with me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Wow, I really can't wait. Now I'm excited to see.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's a really good story. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'm in between trying to figure out whether to make it a series or a one stop. That's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're done, we'll have you back here and we'll talk about it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You are the master of reinvention. When you took, I don't like to say retirement because I feel like artists never really retire.
No,
because you still churn out music. So when you took a break from active Hiplife, you became an entrepreneur. You had Reggie's office. Now I understand you're in the food business. What's next?
Yeah, that's my baby right now.
Yeah, and you're venturing into movie or TV soon. Yeah. What else is Reggie reinventing himself to be next? I tend to get bored really quickly, so I almost always have to find something new. As far as being an entrepreneur, I would say I'm a hustler. I got to make ends meet. I got kids, and the life of a musician in Ghana is rough. You understand me? Yeah.
A lot of things are not put in place. Where if you look at the amount of work that I put in, and what I'll actually be a millionaire. But Ghana is. But I love my country, so I intend to live and die here. So, which by all means necessary, I need to survive. So that's what you call it entrepreneurship. I call it a hustler. You know what I mean? I just got to make ends meet and keep moving. I'm not extravagant. I live a very simple life. Yeah, and also, almost everything that I do has a Pan-African ring to it. So I get into the food now, and I have made a national dish become so big right now. Wache is like the talk and everything is about watch it right now. You know, I have a big hand in that. So when you say rock watch it, I mean it's just not too long ago, about a month ago, I had Beyonce's father eating watch at my place. Yep, shout out to what's up, Matthew. We had all types, but it's great because just like the hamburger and the pizza, that's somebody else's joint. Yeah. And we seem to identify with the name. You drink tequila, but we have a pateshi. You like everything we have. So we need to really push. So I'm trying to make watch it become as popular as even look what the Jamaicans did with reggae, and they did with their food, rice and peas, oxtail and ackee and all of that. So I'm doing the same thing, no different. But it still has a nationalistic vibe to it. It has a patriotic vibe to it.
Okay. Now, I think in 2014 it was when Promsy left VIP, you joined, and it became VVIP. What's up with VVIP? Yeah. What's up with VVIP now?
VVIP, I mean, we're grown folks, you know what I mean? So
I know.
It's what's happening is everybody's, on their business. Music is indeed our passion, but folks are busy building houses and raising families and stuff. So with VVIP, it's more finding time to go in the studio. Okay. And then, of course, it was much exciting when we initiated the original concept of VVIP. And it was also to prove to Ghanaians and to ourselves and to the world that three heads are better than one and that we could work together. And also that it was a monumental collaboration. I mean, what me and VIP did it's never happened. So that in itself is historical. That's like Daddy Lumba and Uncle Kajunchi forming a group. It was some heavyweights. But and also to make it work. If we didn't just come together, we gave you hits upon hits upon hits. I mean, like 4 years back to back, VVIP was holding the fort. From Skolum to Alaji to mobile phone to Dogoyaro to name it. So I'm very proud of that mission. Yeah.
Great. But are you working on any projects, music?
We have a lot of music unreleased. Okay. So I guess if we went back into the lab, we would have enough ammunition to give to you.
Okay. And I've seen a few new music from you on YouTube. So does it mean Reggie also singularly is working on something like an album?
Oh, I always put out music. Almost every year I put a music video or something out. I always do.
Would that culminate into an album eventually, or you tend to just do it singles?
I have enough unreleased material to give you about 2 albums.
Great.
Yeah. Unreleased material stack. But of course, the music business has changed, and you almost need money to make money, or you need money to put the music out.
Yeah.
So I need to figure out a way to get my music to only the people who like my music, and so that you could become ambassadors for me and spread it out. And the other day I was on Instagram and I was telling my followers, I said, look, I have over 1 million organic followers on here. And so meaning that even if I got 500 of you to get my music, something would happen. I like making music for the people who like my music.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be no superstar or whatever. I just share what it is that I have. And if you like it, then you rock it with me.
Well, you have a fan right here, so don't worry.
Thank you, sir.
We're always around. Yeah. And one curious question before I let you go. I've always wondered, do you know if Alhaji K. Frimpong ever listened to your Keep Your Eyes on the Road and what he thought about it?
Yes, he did. And I met the man, I think, 3 times before he passed away. We had great conversation. Him and my father were cool. And then myself, yes. I was honored and privileged to sit with the king. Yeah. In the beginning, he did not know what it was that I was trying to do,
I can
and
imagine.
so yeah, so he's my father asked him how much money that he needed, and when he said it, my father I think doubled it.
Mm.
Yeah, and he was very very pleased with that, but I don't think that he actually knew what exactly. I think he just thought we was trying to sing it again, or I don't know if he knew if it was rap oriented, but yes, it became very popular. And from what I did, it has brought that. I mean, his music is worldwide now. That particular song, it's worldwide. I watched Mos Def coming on stage. That's the song that he came onto stage with, and the original just appeared in the Netflix series. Yeah. So yeah, people know that rhythm.
It is a beloved song, so
It's a classic.
yeah, it is.
I'm really honored to be the one to translate it to young Ghana. Yeah.
Well, Grandpapa, as we like to call you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be waiting to hear from you once you've sorted out the movie / TV gig. Yeah, we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today.
Stay blessed.
For those of you hearing about Reggie Rockstone for the first time, not sure which planet you've been living on, well, you can find his music across streaming platforms. We've been told elephants have a long memory and don't easily forget. But did you know they also have their own language of sorts? Yep, apparently they do. Before You Go is next. And before you go, lately I've become obsessed with videos of animals behaving badly on the internet, or shall I say animals being animals? Just yesterday I saw a video on X, formerly called Twitter, of a man who pranked his 2 cats and a dog. He pretended to fall and pass out just when he was about to feed them. The cats, as I expected, ignored the man and went foraging, even to the point of biting the man and pushing his head and hands so they could reach the pellets over there. The dog, on the other hand, ignored the food and tried unsuccessfully several times to resuscitate its human. Thanks to social media, there are tons of videos like this that give us an insight. Well, that's probably not the right word to use for this, but these videos give us an idea of how animals think, or shall I say process things? Now, according to a new research published in the journal Nature, Ecology and Evolution, a group of scientists say they've discovered that African elephants have unique names by which they call each other. That may sound far-fetched, I know, but guess what? It's not unique to them in a way. Apparently, dolphins and parrots have specific calls they make to address one another. Baby dolphins, for example, invent their own names called signature whistles. So how did the scientists know that the African elephants have unique names for each other?
We were trying to figure out if elephants address one another with something akin to a name. The reason we thought that might be the case is because, among other things, we know that elephants are one of the few mammals that are adept at vocal production learning. So they're able to learn to modify sounds based on what they hear. And not only that, but they can also mimic sounds that are totally alien to their own species.
That was Dr. Michael Pardo, a behavioral ecologist at the Colorado State University, explaining the research. So you won't hear a mother elephant call its child named Lala, for instance, by the name Lala. No, it will be a rumble that would allow Lala to know that her mother's calling.
We knew who made the call and who they were addressing. And we figured out who they were addressing based on behavioral cues. And I used a type of machine learning model called a random forest to see if we could predict who the calls were addressed to just based on the acoustic structure of the call, with the idea being that if the calls contain some information in them that identifies the intended target of the call, that's essentially a name or something functionally equivalent to a name.
So were they able to decipher anything else the elephants were saying? Sorry to disappoint you, but the answer is no. So the next time you visit the savannah and hear the elephants making all these rumbling sounds, beware, they just might be talking about you. I wonder if monkeys also call each other by name, because I saw another video on X, in which a baby monkey was throwing rocks at visitors to their zoo enclosure. Moments later, it turned because I guess the mother called it or something like that. It responded to it, but then turned again to start throwing rocks at the visitors. The mother then approached it with a tree branch of sorts and whipped that monkey so that it stopped throwing the rocks. And as you can imagine, the visitors loved it. Bad baby monkey. Bad monkey. Well, that's our show for today. Many thanks to the grandpapa himself, Reggie Rockstone, for rocking it with us today on the show. And thanks, as always, to my producer, Gertrude Davison Teta, and to Bright Dra, our social media coordinator. Our theme music is Sunshine Blues by Copy Spikey. Let's do this again in 2 weeks. I'm Nia Krofi Smatabe. I hope you have a great weekend.